Today we'll be looking at the COLAMY Neza. Now COLAMY has been absolutely dominating the sub $300 office chair market lately with chairs like the Atlas and the 5188, which are currently some of my favorite budget office chairs. The Neza is their latest offering in this price range, and while it's positioned similarly to those chairs at around $280, it takes a completely different approach to comfort and design that I think a lot of people will really like. In this video, I'll be giving you my full review of the COLAMY Neza after testing it for the past few weeks. We'll dive into all of the key features, highlighting everything I liked about the chair, as well as the things that I didn't like, so by the end, you'll have a clear idea of whether this chair is going to be the right fit for you. But before we dive in, I just want to mention that COLAMY did send me this chair for review, but this video is not sponsored. They didn't pay me to say anything good or bad about the chair, and my opinions are completely my own. They also don't get to see this video before you guys do, so you can rest assured that these are going to be my completely unbiased opinions. That said, I will have some affiliate links in the description, so if you find this review helpful and want to check this chair out, please consider using those links, as it really helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the review, starting with the design. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the COLAMY Neza looks quite different from most budget office chairs. While most ergonomic chairs in this price range will have some sort of mesh design, the Neza features a fully upholstered design that really makes it stand out. And what really stands out on the Neza is the textured upholstery on the backrest, which is actually very reminiscent of the digital knit material found on the Haworth Fern, a chair that costs nearly 5 times as much. It's pretty clear that COLAMY is trying to bring some premium features down to a more budget-friendly price point. The chair comes in 2 color options, gray and navy blue. It uses a two-tone design where the backrest is colored while the seat remains black. And while I think it looks pretty good overall, I think it would be nice to have the option for a single uniform color throughout the entire chair, similar to what you'll get on COLAMY's other models. That said, I really do like the overall aesthetic. It has a modern, professional look that would fit into pretty much any setting, whether it's a gaming setup or a corporate office environment. It definitely doesn't look like your typical budget office chair, and the design really stands out among the sea of generic budget office chairs out there. When it comes to materials and build quality, the Neza is built pretty well for this price range, though I would say it's a slight step down from the COLAMY Atlas in terms of premium materials. It uses a single piece nylon base rather than the metal and nylon combination found on the Atlas. While this is technically a downgrade, the nylon still feels very dense and sturdy, and I don't really have any concerns about its durability. The frame is primarily plastic with hardly any metal components besides the mechanism. Now this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Even high-end chairs from Herman Miller and Steelcase use mostly plastic in their construction. The plastic they use is very dense and high quality, allowing for both durability and flexibility. Speaking of flexibility, one standout feature is the thin, flexible plastic frame that's wrapped in the soft knitted fabric upholstery. This kind of flexible frame design is something you typically only see in higher end chairs from brands like Haworth and Steelcase, so it's impressive to see it implemented here. The upholstery itself feels very high quality. It's soft to the touch and provides a good amount of cushioning. It's comfortable and really adds to the premium feel of the chair. Overall, while the build quality isn't quite as good as the COLAMY Atlas in my opinion, it makes up for it with the flexible frame design and premium upholstery. And don't get me wrong, it's still a really well built chair. Better than most chairs in this $300 price range. It just takes a different approach when it comes to design and comfort, and the materials that they use really reflect that. Now let's talk about the comfort of the chair, starting with the seat. The seat on the COLAMY Neza uses a thicker, softer cushion compared to what you'll find on the Atlas. It lets you sink in a bit more while still maintaining good support. I haven't experienced any issues with bottoming out, even during long sitting sessions. One thing I really like about this seat is its shape. It uses a flatter design that feels more spacious than the seat on the Atlas, which kind of tapers off at the edges. This flat shape helps distribute your weight more evenly across the entire seat, which I personally find more comfortable overall. The chair features what COLAMY calls their wave spring system underneath the seat pad. It's supposed to help provide uniform support and reduce pressure points. In my experience though, it's not really that noticeable. You get a slight bounce when you first sit down, but beyond that, I rarely notice it during normal use. To be honest, it feels a bit gimmicky in my opinion. That said, it doesn't detract from the chair at all, so I don't really have any issues with it. If you're someone who prefers a softer seat that you can kind of sink into a bit, then you'll probably like the Neza. Most ergonomic chairs these days tend to use firmer seat pads since they're generally better for posture long term, but I know a lot of people find firm seats uncomfortable, so it's nice to have the option. There's always going to be a bit of a trade-off when it comes to seat firmness. Firmer seats tend to provide better support, but can sometimes create more pressure points on your sit bones. Softer seats are usually more comfortable when you initially sit in them and offer better pressure relief, but aren't as supportive for your posture. And if you're on the heavier side, then you might bottom out on softer seat pads. The Neza strikes a nice balance with what I consider a medium soft feel. You get decent support while still having enough give for comfort. It's definitely a softer seat than something like the Atlas. You can really sink into a bit, unlike firmer seats where you'll be sitting on top of the seat pad rather than in it. Overall, I think it's a very comfortable seat and I like it a lot. The Neza has a seat pan depth adjustment feature that you can access by pulling out the tab on the side. It slides out about 2 inches, letting you really dial in the perfect fit for your leg length. As a rule of thumb, you want your legs to be at a 90-degree angle with 2 to 3 fingers of space between the front of the seat and the inside of your knee. One good thing about the seat pan depth adjustment is that even when the seat slider is fully extended, you barely notice any gap between the seat and the backrest. This is actually something that even premium chairs like the Steelcase Leap and Haworth Fern struggle with, so it's pretty impressive to see it done right on a budget chair. The seat is also fully padded all around with no hard frame edges, making it comfortable for various sitting positions. If you're someone who likes to sit cross-legged or with one leg tucked under the other, then you'll really appreciate this design. Moving on to the backrest, this is probably the most standout feature of the Neza. It uses a flexible plastic frame wrapped in this soft knitted upholstery that's clearly inspired by the Haworth Fern's digital knit material. And while it's not quite as premium as the Fern's implementation, it still adds a good amount of cushioning that's very comfortable in my opinion. It's actually pretty impressive to see a feature like this on a chair under $300. The frame has excellent flexibility, which helps promote movement throughout the day. You can really feel it working as you stretch and shift positions. This kind of flexible frame design is something that you'll typically only find in higher end chairs. Most budget ergonomic chairs tend to use mesh backrests with rigid frames. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it just doesn't offer any flexibility. So it really makes the Neza stand out and feel unique in this price range. The shape of the backrest features a flared design that provides good upper back and shoulder support, along with a natural S-curve that matches the shape of your spine. This built-in lumbar curve provides decent support on its own, but the chair also includes an adjustable lumbar support with both height and depth adjustment. You can adjust the depth of the lumbar support by flipping the tab into the middle position, though I'd say it's relatively subtle even at the more pronounced setting. While you can definitely feel it working, if you're someone who needs aggressive lumbar support, then this might not be the best option for you. That said, despite being made entirely of plastic with no padding, it doesn't feel pokey at all thanks to the cushioned upholstery. It's pretty supportive and you don't really feel the direct contact of the hard plastic poking through. Now, being fully upholstered means that this backrest won't be as breathable as a mesh design. However, the trade-off is that you get that softer, more cozy feel that I personally really like when I'm lounging. It really just comes down to personal preference, whether you prefer the breathability of a mesh design or the softness of this knitted upholstery. The Recline on the Neza uses a synchro tilt mechanism that feels very smooth. You get a deep 127-degree recline, which is great for lounging, and you can lock the chair in various recline positions when you want to kick back and watch some shows. Unfortunately, there's no headrest option for this chair, which is kind of a bummer since I like having the headrest when I'm going to be reclined for a prolonged period of time. Now, one thing I really like about this chair is the implementation of the tilt tension adjustment. It uses a crank-like mechanism similar to what you'll find on Haworth chairs. It's very responsive and easy to adjust while sitting in the chair. This is a huge improvement over most budget chairs that tend to hide their tilt tension knobs underneath the seat where they're basically impossible to reach without getting up out of the chair. Now, I'm someone who tends to adjust the tilt tension pretty frequently throughout the day depending on the situation, so this is a much welcomed feature for me. The armrests on the Neza are pretty good overall, though they're not without their flaws. You get full 4D adjustability with height, width, depth, and pivot adjustments, and the range of motion on these adjustments is pretty decent. One limitation is that they don't go quite low enough in my opinion. I find that I can't lower them enough to push my chair completely under my desk. The adjustment mechanisms don't lock into place, but they have good resistance to them. Unlike the Atlas where the arm pad adjustments were too loose, I personally haven't had too many issues when it comes to bumping them out of position. And while the armrests are made entirely of plastic compared to the metal components found on the Atlas, they're still very sturdy with minimal play. You can easily push off of them to shift positions or to get up out of the chair without any wobbling. When it comes to the arm pads themselves, they have some give to them, but are still on the firmer side. They're definitely more comfortable than the stiff arm pads on the Atlas, though I wish they were a bit softer when you're really digging your elbows into them. I'm also not the biggest fan of their rounded shape, which can make it easy for your arms to slip off. That said, one standout feature of these armrests is that they're actually connected to the backrest, meaning they recline with you. This is something that you typically only see in higher end chairs from Haworth and Herman Miller. It makes the armrest much more usable when reclining compared to chairs where the arms are attached to the seat, which create an awkward gap when you lean back. The COLAMY Neza comes in at around $250 to $280 on Amazon, and at this price point, I think it offers excellent value. It brings several high-end features that you typically only find in chairs costing over $1,000 down to a much more accessible price point. When comparing it to the Atlas, I'd say the Atlas is slightly better value overall since it has a better build quality and includes a headrest. However, the Neza is still a really good value compared to most other office chairs in this price range, and it offers a different sitting experience that I feel a lot of people might actually prefer over the Atlas. Both chairs are very high quality and offer premium features. They're just different approaches to comfort, so it'll ultimately just come down to your personal preference between the two. I don't really think you can go wrong with either one. Overall, I think COLAMY has done it again with the Neza. They've added another excellent chair to their lineup and are really dominating this sub $300 price tier. While it might not be quite as tank-like in construction as the Atlas, it makes up for it with premium comfort features like a flexible frame and cushion upholstery. If you prefer a softer, more traditional sitting experience over mesh, and high-end features like a flexible frame and armrests that recline with you, then the Neza could be a great choice.